Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. As always, my name is Jay, and in this video I want to talk about the recent point changes to the Genestealer Cult army. It's an army of focus. I'm going to do a few more armies, of course, but Genestealer Cult was one of the armies that was kind of near the top of the, well, it was near the top of the meta. Eldari, Genestealer Cult, Custodes, and Imperial Knights. So I'm going to focus on, of course, those four armies first with the point changes and discuss how will they be impacted. Now, before we even proceed with points changes, the main nerfs to the army was a change to the core rule. That instead of automatically coming back, baseline squads don't automatically come back anymore if you kill them. They come back on a 5-up +1 for being baseline, so 4-up technically, and 3-up if it's turn 1 or 2. After turn 3 onwards, it's on a 4-up, and so that's pretty crazy. It's a huge nerf because it means that instead of coming back automatically, it comes back 50% of the time, which you really have to anticipate that. And the other thing, of course, is that non-baseline went from a 4-up to a 5-up. So even less of them will come back as well. And of course, there were sweeping increases to the army. There was one decrease, actually, slightly, but most point changes went up. And so today, of course, I'm going to talk about the ones that went up and go from there, of course, because it's crazy that, just minor changes. Most of them are pretty small, but yeah, let's go over the point changes and, of course, how we'll address the army. So the army in general went up in points. There weren't a lot of models in the army, but most of the squads went up in points. One squad went down in points, which was pure strain Genestealers. Went down 1 point per model, so a squad of 5 is now 85 points. So cool. Instead of 90 points, now 85, you save 5 points. Good stuff there. Genestealers getting a little cheaper. Cool. They have new models out as well for the new Tyranid Codex, and they're pretty fun to run, with the Patriarch, I'd have to say. Now we're into point increases. There's one model with a 5-point increase, which was the Locust. Went from 40 to 45 points. The Locust is an interesting model too. I haven't seen that many in competitive lists, but it's cool. Acolyte Hybrids. Now we're starting to get into troops choices. Went up by 10 points. So instead of 75 points base for a squad of 5, it's now 85, 170 for a squad of 10. I still think it's a good price if you're going to fill up full of flamers and go for it, as I said, but now they're going to be less survivable. They can't automatically come back. And now that they don't automatically come back, I think your opponent's strategies are going to shift. It's really going to shift from maybe I want to ignore that squad to let's shoot at it. When I play Genestealer Cult for a fun game, my opponent kind of ignored them because he knew that if they killed them, they'd just automatically come back and could go at the opposite side of the table and land on an objective. So instead now you can wipe them out and hopefully fail to 4-up on turn 3, and the squad's gone. It'd be very different tactic. The Italian Jackals, Biophagus, Climavis, Neophyte Hybrids, Nexos, and Reductor, Saboteur, and Ridge Runners all went up by 10 points as well. So let's go through the points, of course. Italian Jackals went from 80 points to 90 points. So cool for a squad of 5, went up by 10 points. Still, I love that squad. Moves fast. It has the explosives that you can, it's a fun squad, and it tends to be a really squad that does a lot of fun, just causes mischief around the table. I like them. The Biophagus went up by 10 points as well, from 50 to 60 points. That's a 20% increase. Kind of sucks. The Biophagus was pretty strong in combination with the squads that you added to, and with the Aberrants, obviously. The Climavis went from 40 to 50 points. Once again, a 25% increase, right? Climavis is nasty to avoid deep strikes near you, which is cool. Neophytes went from a squad of 10 being 80 points to a squad of 10 being 90 points. Okay, still a decent priced squad. They can and just put them on an objective and hopefully they survive, and if they die, hopefully they come back on that 3-up turns 1 and 2, or a 4-up turns 3 to 5. Exactly. Nexos went from 50 to 60. The Reductive Saboteur, I haven't used the Reductive Saboteur yet. Don't really know what to think about the Reductive Saboteur, to be honest. Leave comments in the comment section down below what you think of the Reductive Saboteur. Went from 55 to 65 points. Ridge Runners are a very used model. The They're fast, obviously, like they move around the table quickly, and they have the heavy mining laser, which is great at doing some serious damage to your opponent. So they're very popular. Most competitive lists are running between 4 and 6 of them, because you can do them in squads of 2. So you can run up to 6 models, and that one will, affect as well. 10 points a model. Still a good priced model. I think it's very fair, and yeah, I think obviously it'll hit just as hard, so it's not going to be a problem there. So overall, people running 6 of them, it'll cost 60 points extra. Hurts, but it's still going to be a good solid unit. Aberrants, this one hurts a little bit. Went from 165 to 185. I do think that's a little points heavy. They still hit really hard, especially if you add an Abominant to them. They're still pretty cool. But yeah, that kind of hurt a little bit. 185. Yeah. And of course, the Primus went from 70 points to 90 points. That hurts a little bit too. I like the Primus in certain lists. The Primus has been awesome, has some good special rules. 20-point increase once again is huge. It's almost a 30%, increase in points from 70 to 90. Cool. So that's it overall. Those are all the point increases. So one got cheaper, pure strain Genestealers. Most of them went up. One squad, Locust went up by 5 points. Most things went up by 10 points across the board. And then 20 points for Aberrants and 20 points for the Primus. Overall, I still think it's a good army. You're going to hope that you pass your 5-ups and 4-ups to bring them back. It'll hit just as hard as it did before. There's some mortal wounds in there, but I found the army wasn't really relying on devastating wounds as much as some of the other armies. So it's still going to hit hard. It's just what will it cost you? So I took some of my 2,000 point lists. I've tried it a few times so far, different lists. And I said, what would happen if I took it today? How much would a 2,000 point list be now? And frequently it was about 2,100 to 2,200 points. The highest one was like 2,190. Yeah, wasn't too bad, right? It was because I took, 2 squads of Aberrants, so that increased by 40 points alone. And I had 3 squads of Acolytes and Neophytes, and so it just got more expensive, right? But as I said, typically it only increased between, this is about 2,100, 2,150 was typically on the high end. 2,190 I think was the highest one of my 4 lists, just because it was particularly heavy with troops, and they all went up by points, and Aberrants, which 20 points per squad, makes sense. Besides that, it wasn't as heavily affected as Eldari, for example. Just the big nerf to that army is to change the core rule. Right, versus Eldari, which just a lot of points changes, but not a lot of change to their core rules. The change to the overall game rules was what affected them, with the change to devastating wounds. Right, but that's it. So overall, I think it's going to be a solid army still. I think this will bring them more in line with their Goldilocks zone, hypothetically. I still think the army is awesome. I like the dynamics. I love the models. I love the rules. I'm going to keep playing Genestealer Cult. This wasn't too expensive of a nerf, I found. It was just, points got adjusted. I would have preferred if Aberrants only went up 10 points versus 20. They're starting to get on a little more on the expensive side, but I still think they're really good and hard-hitting, especially with an Abominant. So overall, I'm okay with these changes for now. I think as far as the armies that got nerfed, I think the change of core rule affected it more than the points. What do you think? Leave comments in the comment section. Know what you think about the point changes. Let's create a discussion in the discussion section, and let's keep playing, right? As we said, the points are going to keep changing as we play. Got to get used to it. Overall, I'm still going to play Genestealer Cults. I think I'm going to bring them to a tournament coming up and have a great time. So stay tuned for more videos. Please like the video, comment in the comment section down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Stay tuned for more vids. Next one is Jay saying, happy painting.